if you don't mind, I would love to know your experience with psychedelics, because there is some research that
Yeah.
basically got stumped with mushrooms and with LSD when treating depression, especially,
Yeah.
and grieving and loss. And I think that is fascinating, and it's a shame that I don't necessarily know the data of people who have done it, and I don't know if it can, when weed was treated like kind of like these kinds of drugs that, oh, it'll kill you and you're gonna ruin the rest of your life. I don't know if there's such thing as a bad trip with those drugs, that it completely changes your brain
People label it
forever.
a bad trip. I just label it as a trip. So I do want to emphasize a caveat, and researchers, and luckily in Toronto, we have great research. One of the top researchers in microdosing is Rodham Petranker from U of T here in Toronto. So Toronto is one of the super clusters of universities focusing on psychedelic research, and we're having a massive renaissance. And we still need a lot of research. The contradictions, if you mentioned earlier, like if you're on benzos, if you're on SSRIs or certain medication, or, let's say you do a genetic screening from 23andMe and you realize you might have a predisposition to psychosis or psychiatric, psychosis and schizophrenia.
Yeah.
So there, like any medicine, there should be asterisks where it's like, we need to do screening. Like, where are you in your life? What are you taking? And plant medicines are very different. Like LSD, it's a synthetic, but derived from organic material. It behaves quite differently. And funny thing, though, people don't realize, okay, so there's something in science called LD50, lethal dose 50. What that means is, what is the amount necessary to kill half the population within the study? So it's kind of like a bell curve, if you think about it.
Yeah.
And so LSD and psilocybin, no LD50. You can't overdose on them. Non-existent.
Interesting. That's the active ingredient in mushrooms?
Psilocybin? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
and then there's ayahuasca, and then there's an active ingredient in ayahuasca that you
dimethyltryptamine, DMT.
That's it. Yeah.
But DMT alone is not ayahuasca. So ayahuasca is DMT with a MOA inhibitor. So you need a MAO inhibitor to have the proper effects of DMT. Now, you could get oral DMT, but it has to be 5-MeO DMT from the frog to have the same kind of effects, which is like, I haven't personally done 5-MeO DMT. I've done DMT with vaping. I've done copious amounts of psilocybin shrooms, wet, dry, hero journey of 5 grams plus. I've done iboga, not full dose, microdosing, a low dose of iboga, which is quite beneficial. LSD a bunch of times, peyote, but these are all different, right? And then, like you mentioned CBT, and you mentioned bioenergetics. Like anything, there has to be integration. So people think they can just take it and be like, whoop, and thing will be better. It's like, listen, if you don't have proper, and this is why I always recommend, find somebody. In Toronto, believe it or not, we got good talent. Like, there's really good people who can facilitate and who are both psychologically trained as whether it's a psychiatrist or somebody that understands the mind or have gone through a journey. Toronto, we're blessed to have really good talent over here that can help people.
Wow. And I don't know if this is something like we spoke about CAMH, for those listening. It's the Center for Addiction and Mental Health. Do they do any work with psychedelics for?
No, you think the guy? No,
nothing. This all is kind of privatized, but it's not funded. Like UFT is funded by who though?
Private donors.
Oh, really? So with all of these drugs that you've experimented with, was there an aha moment in some of those? Was that something that helped you with depression?
The best one that's been helping me the most, that helps me with my PTSD, would be integrative MDMA therapy. So that one has helped me the most. Yeah.
I did not know they used like in lower doses.
No, you can't do that. There's a tipping point. So the MDMA, you can't do microdosing. So the protocol for me is you start with 0.1, so 100 milligrams or micrograms. I forget. Anyways, it's 0.1. And then every 30 minutes you do a bump to then a 0.005, then a 0.005. So you end up with 0.2. But then there's a system like, you're laying down. I have a journal. I use my phone as a tape recorder. I have something called sleep mask. What the fuck's that sleep mask called? Mindfold. It's a 3D sleep mask, so it's foamed, so you can keep your eyes open, but it's pitch black.
Oh, that's so smart.
Yeah, so it's a mind. The mask is called a Mindfold mask. I actually use it for sleeping as well. It's great. It's
I
a
want
Mindfold
that.
mask. It's just the best $20 investment you can possibly make.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
And so you have all this stuff, and you do a lot of integration because you're in the moment. And
Mhm.
you know, for me, how I correlate MDMA. And listen, anybody listening to this, take this with high warning. Please do not try this on your own. Please do not just go out. You know, like I said, it really does matter if you're on SSRIs or if you're on benzos, if you're on medication. You know, really, like all medications, like anything in life, do not mix. Like, consult somebody. And we have the Toronto, if you guys are in Toronto, we have the Toronto Psychedelic Association, which can help you with any guidance that you need, or you can contact MAPS. So Multidisciplinary Association of Psychedelic Studies or Research. There's American division, which is run by Rick Rubin. Not Rick Rubin, that's the producer, Rick Dublin. And then we have the Canadian one too. And so for me, that was the best one. And then, you know, other ones like shrooms, I always have amazing deep dives on shrooms. And then you can combine them like MDMA with shrooms and different analogs like 2CB, 2CA and all this stuff.
Right. I think this is the conversation that I think needs to be more open when it comes to mental health. So the reason that I don't call myself an advocate is because a lot of people don't have conversations like this, which is why I was so excited to come on here. And I didn't know it would even go in this direction, which is even cooler. A lot of it revolves around psychiatry and pharmaceuticals, which is fine, but that can't be 95% of the conversation when there's so many alternatives that we know. And when alternatives like this, we talk about like psychedelics, when we talk about diet, I think it's automatically cast in the shadows and thought of as alternative medicine. And maybe it's called alternative for a reason, but the alternative can be just as powerful, if not more, than a pharmaceutical.
This is also a good litmus test when you are trying to work with somebody. Like, imagine if you went to a car mechanic, and the car mechanic only looked at your spark plugs. That's it. You'd be like, "Yo, what the fuck you doing?" You know what I mean? Like,
I can't stop, man. Like, what are you doing?
The car works as a whole unit, right? The alternator has to be there. The spark plugs have to be working. The cylinders, everything, right? The whole engine has to be working in unison together. You can't just be looking at one aspect of it. And so if you are, and that's why I recommend always go by referrals. Like, go to your network, ask around, and work speaks for itself. Let me put it that way, right? So, like I said, there's really good healers within like Toronto and Ontario.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, anytime I hear anybody poo-pooing on like diet doesn't play a role, and I look at them like, you really are dumb. Like, I'm pretty blunt with them. Like, you're just dumb.
No, it's true. It's true. Like, you can't ignore that. And I think, again, having these conversations and knowing that there's evidence everywhere and that the body works as a whole is just something we need to get out there, because I know how difficult it is to when you know it yourself and you're in kind of that industry and you're following certain people that spread this kind of information. I tend to think that, okay, then everybody knows about this stuff. It's common knowledge. But if you go outside of that circle and see how mental health is talked about and depression talked about as a whole, like outside of our community, people don't know shit. And it's so sad. The education isn't there. The research isn't there. The curiosity isn't there. The skepticism isn't there. That can go back to what we teach kids in school. That can go back to what we're learning, like it's household upbringing, what the public is telling us, media, social media, who the big players are in mental health, who's sharing certain information. It's just a shame. It's a real shame, which is why I started Depression to Expression, right? The other thing I'd like to say is, so we talked about diet, meditation, CBT. The other thing I did recently last year was sensory deprivation tanks.
Ooh.
Yeah, and that I still have one I'm going this month again, and I'd like to go like once a month. But that is something, if you can probably combine it with different drugs if you want to go nuts. But even someone without using drugs on top of it, just going in sober
Oh, yeah,
is
it's amazing.
quite an amazing experience. What's been your experience with the float tank?
First time I ever went, so they're 90-minute sessions. I went to the one on Queen Street, Toronto.
Yeah, float Toronto. Yeah,
Toronto,
same here.
It took me almost 90 minutes to get into the zone, then time was up. I'm like, well, fuck. That was kind of like the first 2 times I went to my body get used to it. And it's a great experience. Like, it's room temperature, you're like pitch black. And
Amazing.
so the second time I went a little bit microdose, tiny bit, not too much. And then this time I brought also waterproof. Fuck, I don't have it here. I brought waterproof these earbuds.
Oh, right on. What did you play on them? Just
Binaural beats, so I have like just cool audio stuff. Yeah,
cool.
and the binaural beats really helped me.
Yeah, I had the same experience. It took me about half the time to relax my neck. That was a big thing. Like, I'm so tense trying to like stay afloat. You forget that you can let go, and the salts are doing the work for you. So that took me a while to get the body in tune, and then once that happened, my mind could relax. So a lot of the time it actually starts with the body, and that affects the mind for sure. Think about any exercise, really. But that had a really cool effect on self-awareness, spatial awareness, getting out and just walking home and being in a completely calm state. And I had a feeling that's maybe what some other drugs can do, but that was completely natural and felt amazing for me. So I'm definitely going to bring that into my practice every month. For those listening, the isolation tanks, flotation tanks, whatever you want to call them, you could do it in your own bathroom, but you need like 80 pounds of salt so you can float that well in your tub.
You can do it at your house. I've been doing, since I used to train a semi-pro MMA martial arts when I was much younger, and I competed professionally in kettlebells, and did a bunch of crazy stuff when I was younger.
How do you compete in kettlebells? You mean kettlebells? Like
yeah.
What is that? Just a lifting contest?
Yeah, similar to Olympic lifting, like kind of the lifts. So the first lift, no particular order, but first lift would be a jerk. You compete with 32 kilos, so the jerk is 32 kilos. So about like 70 pounds in each hand, and you jerk over your head for 10 minutes straight, the proper form. You put down the
No.
Yeah, so then you have the long cycle. So long cycle is you start with the swing between the legs, bring it up to the chest, and you jerk. So that's a long cycle for 10 minutes, and then you're counting your reps. Everything has to be locked out straight, proper form. Then the third lift is a snatch, so 32 kilos. So you do 5 minutes left arm snatching up, then switch 5 minutes snatching up. And how it works is a coefficient score. So it's you take your weight divided by total reps of your lifts, and that's your coefficient score. So that's kind of
geez, when I see, like, I don't want to try kettlebells heavy, at least, because I see like form is so important with any of that stuff.
Anything. Like, you start with a barbell if you're doing Olympic lifting or powerlifting, or even like without weight. I see a lot of people at the gym trying to do pull-ups. Horrible. Like, they don't activate anything. It's like
right.
I'm like,
are you the guy that goes and like helps them out? Because sometimes, I know it's hard.
I got my music.
Yeah.
It's the noise cancellation headsets. I got a hoodie half the time. Like, I literally have a hat and a hoodie. Like, I'm a fucking Eskimo like this. And like,
but it's sometimes hard to see these people and you don't want to be the guy to offer advice, but at the same time, if it's coming from a genuine place, you want to actually help, because you can see like, that guy's back is going to be messed up in like 6 months.
Yeah.
If he's doing that. Let him be.
I hate when people bother me. That's why I don't bother people. Like, I have people come up to me, ask me about stuff like, oh, I see this, and I'm like, fuck off. Like, no disrespect, but like, I'm here to train. Then I'm not here for 2 hours. I'm not here for chit chat.
Right.
Like, I'm training. Like, leave me alone. Well, like, this is my meditation, and I'm fucking training.
Right. Well, a guy with the hoodie on, with headphones on, usually is a sign that, this guy wants to do his thing. Let him be. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. But you use the gym for meditation, as you said. Like, I totally get that. Some people use it to be social and to see familiar faces. I'm the same way. It's like my time to get back in my body after sitting for a while looking at a pixelated screen. So I can totally understand that that's your time. Oh yeah.
Yeah. You ever got into breathing, like Wim Hof, like deep diaphragmatic breathing?
There's oh geez, what's the kind of yoga?
Kundalini.
Kundalini yoga gets really into breathing. I've done that once, and it was very interesting. I've never felt my lungs that much before. Like I've never been aware of my lungs that much and what
Yeah.
air feels like. But that's something I'd like to try. It's really just during my sit down meditations. I'm just inhale, exhale, very simple. But what are other breathing practices?
Wim Hof is a really good simple one.
Is that the
Iceman.
that one?
Yeah,
Like
in a
fast
nutshell,
exhales?
yeah. So it's okay. So it's 30, 30. On the 30th, you exhale. You don't inhale. You hold as much as you can, but you don't want to hold till you're like, so you just hold till you just feel that feeling. Then you inhale. Then you hold it until you just get to that feeling where you not too hard. You get like that difficult feeling. Then you exhale. So that's one set.
How many sets? How many sets?
I do 3.
Okay.
So then it'll be 90 reps.
Is there research into this kind of breathing and how it affects the brain and like oxygenation and that kind of stuff for the mind?
Yeah, there's research. Yeah.
I'd be interested to see that because I know like just you shallow breathe throughout the whole day until you realize and come to terms with to how you're breathing and have that awareness, right? And then when you finally do a breath, it's like if you pay attention, the bottom of the lungs feel like almost stale, like they haven't been touched. I know that's not how it works, but that's how I feel. Like finally, when you take a bigger inhale, you kind of wake up the whole body. It's breathing is something that I definitely want to bring into a daily routine. And just not sitting down and doing it, but just as we're walking, just as we're at the gym, it's just much easier to do and focus on while, let's say, you're at the gym. Because like,
I fuck around when I walk. I try to hold my breath as much as I can.
Oh, that's amazing.
I do like hypoxia stuff. So it's like, then just walk. I'm out there anyways. And then I can't take any more. Then exhale, but then I don't inhale right away. Then I hold that exhale as much as I can. Then I like rinse and repeat.
That was, David Blaine, the magician guy.
Yeah, the magician. Yeah.
That's kind of what he did to train the breathing or train himself to hold his breath for whatever, 8 minutes or something. It's like he would do that until he would get massive headaches and then do it again. That guy's a guinea pig.
Yeah,
that
he's crazy.
Guy. But I'll do that too. Like I have a pool in the condo and I'll just go and just stay underwater for as long as I can. People looking in from the gym, they're like, is that guy dead in the pool?
Yeah.
I just put a hand up. Yeah, what's up? But the long story short, there's like, as we've just attested to, there's so much you can do for mental health that just needs to be explored. I think people need to have a more guinea pig approach to their bodies. And everyone's different, as you mentioned, like, so what works for some people won't work for others. But the point is to kind of find your niche and find what works for you. And that's kind of the whole point. I can't say that something is completely wrong, although it's really hard to when you see someone eating McDonald's every day, complaining that they have depression. I'm like, that might be the wrong thing to do. But holding judgment won't really help anyone in the long run. But I think everyone just needs to figure out their own recipe. That's it.
I agree. Yeah. I think we'll leave it at that. That's a great ending.
Everyone figure out your recipe.
That's right. Well, Scott, I appreciate you sharing your thoughts and experiences. If people want to get a hold of you, learn more about you, what's the best resource they can reach you at?
Yeah, depression2expression.com. And then check out my YouTube channel and my own podcast where I'll be having Ameer on as well and getting him to do more of the talking and explore this a little bit more. So depression2expression.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks.